So today we'll be talking about lipoproteins in a little bit more detail than we discussed earlier. So what are lipoproteins? Now your non-polar lipids, your triglycerides, cholesterol esters, they assemble with amphipathic lipids, okay? Your phospholipids and free cholesterol along with a protein layer. So protein will be the polar part to form a water miscible complex. That will be your lipoprotein. So I'll repeat once again. Your lipoprotein is a water miscible complex of non-polar and polar components. The non-polar components being triacylglycerol and cholesterol esters, along with the polar components, which is your protein. You will also have some amphipathic lipids like phospholipids and free cholesterol present in them. So if you see the structure of a standard lipoprotein, it will look something like this. See, this is how a general lipoprotein looks. You will have a protein, you will have phospholipids embedded on the surface of that lipoprotein. The protein portion as well will be present on the surface. Your cholesterol and triglycerides will be generally bound inside. Very few cholesterol molecules will be present free in the surface, on the surface of that lipoprotein. Generally, they will not come out, they'll be present just under the surface. And it will make it so that this molecule is able to stably be present in your blood in a solution which is liquid based, okay, because you are transporting something which is water insoluble. You need something that can you need a transporter that is water soluble. These lipoproteins are special molecules that can, now generally speaking, cholesterol, fat and all of them, they are hydrophilic, okay. Your cholesterol, your other lipids, your TGs, okay, all of them are hydrophobic. They cannot exactly mix properly in water, hence they cannot be transported in your blood as such, right? In that sense, what you need to do is you need to add them with a protein. That carrier will be the protein which is called a lipoprotein, which will have a hydrophilic and hydrophobic end. So the inner part will be hydrophobic and the outer part will be hydrophilic, okay, in the sense that it can stably it can stabilize itself in a solution and it can become miscible in a watery solution, okay, so that you can transport it from here and there. Now coming to specific types of lipoproteins, we have 5 types that we'll be discussing. So one second. The first one will be chylomicrons. Okay, now chylomicrons are very rich in triglycerides. They are around 75 to 600, 75 to 600 nanometers in diameter. See, generally speaking, the lower you go, I'll show you a picture. It'll be easier for you to understand size differences based on that. So one second. Yeah. See, yeah. Chylomicrons, very low density, intermediate density, they will be larger than higher density. Higher density lipoproteins will be much more smaller because they are more dense. Okay. On the other hand, you will have chylomicrons, which will be the largest. Okay, now your chylomicrons will vary between 75 to 600 nanometers depending on the amount of triglycerides that are present inside them. The more triglycerides they have, the larger they'll be. The less triglycerides they have, the smaller they'll be. Okay, generally ranging from 75 to 600 nanometers. They are derived from your intestinal absorption of lipids. The triglycerides that you get inside your chylomicron, they are generally absorbed from your intestine. Whenever you have lipid metabolism and lipid digestion, after absorption from your intestine, they will go into your chylomicrons. From your chylomicrons, generally what happens is these lipids and triglycerides, they will enter either lacteals are your lymphatic vessels of your small intestine, or they will there they will enter the lymphatic system, proper lymphatic system. Initially they will enter the lacteals, then from there they will enter lymphatic system, finally coming into systemic circulation. They directly do not enter your blood. Okay, your chylomicron contains around 88% triglycerides. So the main component of your chylomicron will be triglycerides, which is why they are considerably larger. They will be very the density will be very low, and what do you call, they will have very small amounts of phospholipids, cholesterol and protein present in them, mostly made up of triglycerides. Just write that point down here. Triglycerides 88%, and trace amounts of proteins, cholesterol and phospholipids. These will be the largest amongst your lipoproteins. So the main function of chylomicron is to transport your dietary triglycerides from your intestine to adipose tissue for storage, and to muscle or heart. So any particular what do you call, tissue which is using that triglyceride for energy. So it can either help in storage or it can help in transport of fat, which will be used up as energy. So primary function will be transport of TGs into adipose tissue for storage, or muscle, skeletal muscle specifically, for energy generation. So yeah, this is about chylomicrons. Now, in your textbooks also you will have, see, for you in your portion you only have what are the types of lipoproteins and what are the functions of lipoproteins. You needn't go into metabolism. Okay, there will be a portion of metabolism of lipoproteins as well. At least at your level, you do not need those metabolism of lipoproteins, so might as well skip it. Now coming to the next type, which is very low density, VLDL जिसको बोलते हैं. So these are very low density lipoproteins. These lipoproteins are considerably large. They will be around 30 to 80 nanometers in diameter, depending on the amount of triglyceride present in them. They are quite rich in triglycerides as chylomicrons, not as much as chylomicrons, but they'll still be quite rich in triglycerides, and which are specifically secreted by your liver. Your VLDL are secreted by your liver, and their main function will be they will carry triglycerides, specifically endogenous triglycerides, from your liver to peripheral tissue. So they will do something similar to LDL. Okay, they will take whatever triglyceride, endogenous triglyceride is being secreted, that into your peripheral tissue for energy needs. So the primary function is carrying TGs to, from liver to, okay, whenever your tissue whenever any particular part of your body needs energy for metabolic processes and whatever it might be, it will use the triglycerides that it gets from your VLDL, in the sense transported from your VLDL. Then we have intermediate density lipoproteins, IDL. Now intermediate density lipoproteins will be smaller. They'll be around 25 to 35 nanometers in diameter, and they are generally converted into LDL. Their function is that they are also transporters of this thing, but the problem with IDL is that IDL and LDL are responsible for the formation of atheromas. I'll explain to you what is atheromas in atherosclerosis, but just know for now that it will contribute to a pathological process. They will contribute to blockage of your capillaries, specifically your arteries. Okay, arteries and arterioles. That is why the amount of IDL and LDL that you need to have in your body should be relatively low, because they will promote the growth of atheromas. Generally there are also transporters of triglyceride, and one thing they do is they will retain cholesterol esters. They will not let go of cholesterol esters. So that is about ideal. Coming to one of the most important ones, which is LDL, low density lipoprotein, also called LDL. Now, low density lipoprotein is your conventional bad cholesterol. Okay, why is it called bad cholesterol? You will understand in a bit. See, the primary functions of your LDL is again to transport cholesterol and triglycerides, specifically cholesterol, from your liver to peripheral tissues. Not so much with what you call triglycerides, but more with cholesterol. They will transport more amounts of cholesterol. What happens to that cholesterol which it is transporting is that it will be used for the synthesis of steroid hormones and other steroid products in whichever cell it is taking. So let's suppose it is taking from liver to whatever, let's suppose it is taking to one skeletal muscle. Okay, यहाँ पर in this skeletal muscle your cholesterol will be used for production of steroid hormones. ठीक है, it can generally be it can be skeletal muscle, it can be ovary, it can be testes. Wherever steroid hormones can be formed in excessive quantity, there your lipoprotein will transport cholesterol. That is one function. Other than that, what will happen to this cholesterol is it will help in it will get incorporated in cell membrane, especially any membrane actually. It will get incorporated in membranes. It will help in integrity of your cell membrane. Other than that, some amount of cholesterol which is left over after doing both of these, it will get esterified. After getting esterified, it will form something called monounsaturated fatty acid. Okay, single double bond will be present. That is why monounsaturated fatty acid. And this monounsaturated fatty acid is stored for future use. So this is the fate of your cholesterol. One thing is that it will help in the formation of steroid hormones. Once lipoprotein, low density lipoprotein is transporting it to a target cell or a target tissue, in that tissue it will form steroid hormones or steroid molecules, whichever it is capable of. It will get incorporated in your membranes and it will get converted. So it will get esterified. So I'll just write ester here. It will get esterified into monounsaturated fatty acids containing a single double bond. Okay, that is why monounsaturation. And these monounsaturated fatty acids will be stored inside that tissue for future use. Whenever your tissue needs energy, and let's suppose you have lower amounts of LDL, this stored amounts will be used. All right. Now, why is it bad? Your LDL has a capacity to get oxidized. Okay, what happens is this LDL molecule generally will get into the details of this a little bit more in atherosclerosis, which I'll explain in a little bit. But basically what happens is this fellow will get oxidized. Whenever it gets oxidized, it can what do you call get, how should I put it, whenever you have this LDL and it is getting oxidized, this fellow has a potential to form clots. Okay, that is one problem with LDL. Whenever you have the oxidized form of LDL, it is very thrombogenic. Thrombogenic ka matlab it will easily form a thrombus. That material which it contains, the cholesterol material and its structure itself is very thrombogenic. It can easily form clots and it can trigger kya bolte, uh, inflammatory processes. It is generally seen, this oxidized LDL specifically is seen in cigarette smokers. It is seen in people with diabetes mellitus. It is seen in patients who have insulin resistance. So in all of them, you will be able to see oxidized form of LDL occurring in excessive amounts, leading to the formation of atherosclerosis. That is why cigarette smokers have a very high risk of forming atheromas and atherosclerosis. Okay, clinically, this LDL concentration, whenever someone has higher amounts of LDL concentration, there is a very what do you call, good chance that the person will develop cardiovascular diseases. Almost direct correlation, in the sense that the more LDL you have, the higher the chance of you developing cardiovascular diseases. Initially it will start off with atherosclerosis or high blood pressure or some other type of cardiovascular disease. Generally atherosclerosis, because it gets deposited in your arterial wall and forms plaques. Now, what happens is this LDL will infiltrate into different layers of your blood vessels, and that is where it will form plaques and all. Okay, that is how atheromas are formed. Now, coming to what do you call, some hormones that influence LDL levels, your insulin and T3. So, insulin and T3, both of them increase the binding of LDL to liver. In a way, whenever someone has high amounts of insulin and high amounts of T3, the amount of LDL will be in check. Or to put it another way, LDL will be low when insulin and T3 are high. Okay, so in by that logic, you can also derive that someone who has diabetes and someone who has hypothyroidism, diabetes में insulin level कम हो जाता, and in hypothyroidism thyroid hormones are low. In that condition, what happens is hypercholesterolemia occurs. The amount of cholesterol that is present in a person's blood will increase because LDL concentration will go up. Okay, I hope you understood the logic here. Whenever insulin levels and T3 are high, they will cause LDL to get bound to liver cells very quickly. Now, LDL ka kaam hai to take what do you call, cholesterol from your liver to different tissues, right? What these two will do is they will make sure it is bound to liver. It is not getting out of liver that easily, or in a way they are causing decreased amount of cholesterol indirectly. Insulin and T3. Whenever someone is suffering from diabetes mellitus or hypothyroidism, when their insulin and T3 levels are low, there is a good chance that they will have hypercholesterolemia because of increased amount of LDL present in their blood. So that is about your LDL. Now coming to HDL, high density lipoprotein. This fellow is your conventional good cholesterol, because one thing is it is the smallest particle of your lipoprotein that they have. It is very small and it is very dense. Okay, it is packed with what do you call, lipoproteins, and it's packed with, sorry, it is packed with lipids and triglycerides. And the function of this high density lipoprotein is that it will take cholesterol and triglycerides and whatever lipid molecules are present from peripheral tissue, so all around your body, to the liver, to get metabolized and to get stored or to get converted. So in a way it is decreasing the amount of cholesterol that is present in your serum and that is present in your body. Okay, whenever it is going to your liver, see, one thing is your HDL will take peripheral cholesterol to liver. Another thing it can do is it will take it to other organs that can form steroids. So they are called steroidogenic molecules, steroidogenic organs, in the sense that those organs have the capability of making steroid hormones. In a sense, cholesterol को convert करके they are making some other steroid hormone. It might be progesterone, it might be estrogen, it might be testosterone, whatever it is. Okay, you are basically decreasing the amount of cholesterol. This is helped by HDL. So it will take peripheral cholesterol which is present, and it will take to, let's suppose, some steroidogenic organs include your adrenal glands, your ovaries and testes. All of these are responsible for the formation of steroid hormones, in which cholesterol can be converted into other forms. So it will be converted into progesterone, it can be converted into different forms of estrogen, it might be converted into testosterone, dihydrotestosterone, so on and so forth. Whatever steroid hormone we are talking about, aldosterone and the cortisol and the, in a in this, what happens is the amount of cholesterol that is present in your blood goes down. That is why HDL is very important. And uh, because of these properties, now along with this, it will also help in inhibiting oxidation. So it will inhibit oxidation, it will inhibit inflammation, it will inhibit coagulation and platelet aggregation. Because of all of this, your HDL has a very cardioprotective nature, in a sense that it will protect your body from atherosclerosis from happening. Okay, that is why it is generally recommended that in a normal healthy individual, HDL numbers should be higher and LDL numbers should be low. Okay, so whatever cholesterol they are consuming or they are generating, that is not present in the blood but it is being used up. whenever it is present in the blood, that is specifically because of LDL. If it is being used up, it is because of HDL. If there is higher HDL, you will not have free cholesterol roaming around in your blood. Okay, so now that you understand what is these levels of HDL, LDL, and lipoproteins, we'll go over what is lipid profile. So, once again, see, this is a general lipid profile. You will have a larger lipid profile as well if you just go to a hospital and check any patient who has a cardiovascular disorder. I'm pretty sure out of 10 patients, at least 3 or 4 patients will have lipid profile done. Lipid profile is a little expensive, that is why not all patients are recommended to it, but you will definitely find what you call lipid profile done for some patients with cardiovascular disorders. This will indicate what are the levels of cholesterol, triglycerides, HDL, LDL, and what is cholesterol to HDL ratio that the patient has. Okay, यहाँ पर we are uh, comparing what will be desirable, what is borderline, and what is high risk. But whenever we do it for a patient, you will only see what are their levels. Okay, sometimes on the side, some hospitals, what they do is they will give you the patient's values, and beside that they will give comparative values, what is the desirable level. So you might have a patient whose cholesterol is around 250, and beside that you will have the desirable level, it should be less than 200. Vaisa. So as such, in a healthy individual, the desirable levels of cholesterol will be less than 200, and whenever you are going on the border of 239 to 40, that is when you develop a higher risk of cardiovascular diseases. The more towards the higher end, only with cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL, when those increase, it is a problem. When HDL increases, that is not a problem. HDL cholesterol should be high. Okay, it should be 60. As you can see, when the patient has lower and lower amounts of HDL cholesterol, they will become vertical. They will be more prone for cardiovascular diseases. Their risk of developing cardiovascular diseases increases. The same goes for triglycerides. When triglycerides level go up, okay, from 150 being the desirable, 150 and lower than 150 mg per dl. See, these values are in mg per dl. Please be careful. Sometimes you will also have values given in mmol. Okay, so be careful of those, whether or not it is mg per dl or mmol. Now, triglycerides, whenever someone is having triglyceride level, see, higher risk ka matlab they are either already having a cardiovascular disorder, or they are in a range like something like pre-diabetes, or maybe they have atheromas already developed, but they have not developed something like myocardial infarction. They've not had an event like myocardial infarction or stroke, but they're definitely at a very high risk, and they are almost at the tipping point where they can have a deteriorating disease. Okay, so that is about your lipid profile. Now coming to atherosclerosis. So yeah, Rajkumar, do you have a doubt? Okay, now coming to atherosclerosis. This is a very specific disease caused due to hardening and plaque formation. So if I take a blood vessel, let's suppose this is a normal blood vessel. Whenever I have atheromas being formed, atheromas are plaques that are literally formed like this, which block your artery. So normally in a general artery, let's suppose I have one artery like this, and I have another arteries like this. Let's suppose this is the one that is affected with atherosclerosis, and this is a healthy one. Okay? In a healthy blood vessel or a healthy artery, I will not be able to find any atheromas or any blockages. In atherosclerosis, what happens is your blood vessel, portions of your blood vessel will become hardened, they will become sclerosed, they will lose their elasticity, and they will be blocked by certain structures called atheromas. Because of this blockage, what happens is the amount of blood that is getting flown, that decreases. यहाँ पर the amount of blood that is coming out will decrease, obviously, because of the blockage, physical blockage that is present here. Sometimes what happens is this atheroma will grow to such an extent that it will completely block that blood vessel. In such senses, what will happen, in such conditions, what will happen is whichever organ or whichever part of the body it is supplying your blood and oxygen to, that will get completely deprived of blood and oxygen, and in the end what will happen is यहाँ पर you will have ischemic injury, you will have ischemia, decreased amount of oxygen, which might ultimately lead to necrosis. Okay, that is atherosclerosis in a nutshell. Okay, it will occur when your fats, cholesterol, and all of them start getting deposited in the arteries. Ultimately, a thrombotic reaction will occur, inflammatory reactions occur, calcium gets deposited, fibrin gets deposited, collagen gets deposited. That whole structure will become very hardened. This part will become very hardened. It will be you will literally need to perform a surgery or something to remove this part. Okay, this atheroma, it will become so hardened that it will not budge under the pressure of your blood, and it will block all the flow of blood that is going to whichever organ it is going. Okay, let's suppose this is a coronary artery. What are coronary arteries or your coronaries? आप लोगों को हार्ट पढ़ा है?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then what are coronaries? कोरोनरी आर्टरी के बारे में नहीं पढ़े तुम लोग, हार्ट के बारे में पढ़े बोले तो. What are the blood vessels that supply blood to your wall of your heart? Your heart also is a muscle, right? It needs blood. रे रे ऐसा कैसा भूल गया तो परेशानी. On your heart, you will have a pair of almost 8 arteries. Let's suppose this is your heart. Okay. Let's suppose this is your heart, and on the surface of your heart, you will have a particular big artery that is a branch of your aorta, which will have around 8 branches of its own. Those are coronary arteries. Those coronary arteries are responsible for supplying blood to the wall of your heart. Now your endocardium, pericardium, myocardium, all of that also needs what you call oxygen and blood to survive and to perform its function. Technically heart needs a lot of blood of its own, because it is pumping continuously. If your heart cannot take a break. Okay, if it takes a break, you will take a break permanently. So what do you call, in this case you will need continuous supply of oxygen and a very large supply of oxygen. That is why coronary arteries are very important. Whenever you have an occlusion like this, whenever you have a blockage like this atheroma occurring in a coronary artery, it will lead to a condition called myocardial infarction, basically heart attack. If this happens in your brain, in a cerebral artery, it will lead to stroke. Okay? Stroke is a neurological condition caused due to a cardiological problem. Okay? It is mainly a problem in your brain that is stemming from, or it is originating from a cardiovascular disorder. The cardiovascular disorder being atherosclerosis. Okay. Now, what are some factors that will cause atherosclerosis? Risk factors specifically. Increasing age. So older people have a higher risk of developing atherosclerosis if they have family history, or what do you call, positive family history of atherosclerosis. If one of your, especially your first degree relatives, in the sense mother, father, your brothers, your siblings, all of them, if they have atherosclerosis, there is a chance that you might develop as well, especially if you don't take care of your body. And someone who has a history of cigarette smoking, someone who has diabetes mellitus, someone who already has hypertension or hypercholesterolemia, all of these will increase the risk of the patient developing atherosclerosis, because uh, they have elevated amounts of LDL. Generally speaking, elevated amounts of LDL and lower amounts of HDL are a direct correlation for atherosclerosis. Someone who has high amounts of LDL, there is a very good chance that they will develop atherosclerosis. Other than this, there are a few other smaller influences or lesser influences, not completely in every patient, but it occurs. People who have a very sedentary lifestyle, who are literally do not have any, what do you call, uh, in the sense, any physical movement in their body or in their day, they are leading a completely sedentary life. those people, and someone who has very who is living in a very stressful condition, they have a lot of stress to deal with, or they are obese, or they are on oral contraceptives, all of these people have a certain risk of developing atherosclerosis in their life. All right, so those are the risk factors. Now, pathophysiology, or how atherosclerosis develops, I'll not get into the details because you'll study about that next year, but I'll give you a brief picture of what happens in atherosclerosis. Now let's suppose you have a blood vessel. Okay, ये blood vessel में we do not know the exact cause of atherosclerosis, but there are a few hypotheses. One commonly accepted hypothesis is a problem in your epithelium. ठीक है, specifically your endothelium of your what do you call this thing, blood vessel. Now यहाँ पर on the innermost layer of your, what are the layers of your blood vessel by the way? 3 layers रहते ना? What are the layers of your blood vessel? Any standard blood vessel? क्या हुआ? No one remembers what are the layers of your blood vessels. If you don't remember that, it will be very hard to teach you atherosclerosis.
Tunica intima.
ओके, ट्यूनिका इंटिमा अंदर आता बाहर आता?
That अंदर आता.
Innermost or middle one?
Innermost.
Okay. What are these
Then
two?
tunica media.
Hmm.
And one more.
What is?
Externa.
Hmm.
Something.
Okay. What does tunica media contain? Acha, I'll stop the class here for now. Your homework is to